All right, well, my clock says noon, so I think we'll go ahead and get started here. I'm Heidi Garvin from GROW Nebraska. I'm our training services coordinator. So part of my job is that I get to facilitate amazing trainings like these. And we are glad to have all of you on the webinar today. So it should be extra wonderful. And we are blessed today. We have a special guest since majority of you are food producers. We do have a special guest from B&R Stores who is here to talk to us about how you can get involved with them if you'd like to work with them. So Craig, I'll let you take it away.
All right, hello, welcome everybody. I'm Craig Weimer. I'm with B&R Stores, as Heidi had said. Our corporate offices are located here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we have 19 stores in and throughout Nebraska. We got 18 in Nebraska and 1 in Iowa. We're in Columbus, Grand Island, Hastings, Lincoln, Omaha, and Council Bluffs, our communities that we're all in. So we've been around since 1964, so a little over 53 years. Today, talk about how you can contact us, or if you try and get your product into the stores. I know that can be a tough process, but I mean, we try and do as much as we can with our local people as we can in our stores, because we are local too, and the local is the growing buzzword, or growing in produce, fresh, and just local products people like. So I mean, the type of stores we have like 10 Super Savers, which are a warehouse market type store. We have 6 Russ's Markets, which is like a smaller neighborhood full service supermarket. And we have one called a Save Best, with just a limited assortment, like an Aldi type store. So we got kind of 3 different areas we can do stuff in. Biggest thing, I mean, if you want to try and get into your local markets, the best way would be to contact us here at B&R. Would be myself or a couple other category managers. We pretty much take care of all the center store, grocery, dairy, frozen, grocery aisles. And I can give you that contact information at the end. Or you can go onto our website and just go to brstores.com, and that'll bring up our webpage.
Yeah, Craig, if it's all right with you, I'll go ahead and directly email everyone your contact information after the training.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Awesome. And we absolutely love working with you guys. So we've had members in the past who've gotten into B&R Stores, and it's just been a phenomenal time.
Yeah, we're a great company. I mean, I've actually just been with them now 8 months, but I actually did work with the company back when I was in college at the University of Nebraska. So it's my second time around, because I was out of state and finally got back into Nebraska. So it's a great local company and a great company to work for. So,
Awesome.
Is there any other questions you have?
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Craig? Oh, and I am unmuting everybody if you want to ask now. All right, well, they might have some questions that they'll email you afterward. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. You guys all have a great day and a great meeting. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks. All right, everyone, just a couple of quick housekeeping things before we go ahead and get started with our training. I am going to be muting you during the presentation. If you have any questions, there is a chat window if you're on your computer that you can pull up, and I will be monitoring the chat. Otherwise, you can unmute yourself. We will be unmuting everybody at the end of the training so that you can ask questions as well. If you like this training, we do have a free Third Thursday training every single month, and you can register for all of those on grownebraska.org. So next month's training, I'm super excited for this. We're bringing in Samantha Morris from Pepper Jam. Pepper Jam is an organization that does a lot of the marketing for the buckle. So they are going to be talking about how you can harness affiliate marketing and influencer marketing. So we're very excited about this. And again, you can register for that on grownebraska.org. Also, trainings like these would not be possible without the help of our amazing sponsors. So we are giving thanks today and a huge shout out to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's Nebraska Cooperative Development Center. If you haven't had a chance to work with them, Jim Crandall is an absolutely wonderful resource, especially for food producers. He works quite extensively with the Buy Fresh, Buy Local program, and I highly encourage you to check them out. So without their support, we would not be able to offer trainings like these. And now the reason we're all here, I'm going to be turning it over here to our experts from Midwest Labs. So please bear with us while we switch the PowerPoint.
All right, can everyone see the desktop? Hopefully see Midwest Labs.
It looks great.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, well, we'll get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining in to learn about nutritional labeling. My name is Stephanie Peterson, and I'm the supervisor of the Foods Lab at Midwest Labs. With me today, I have Sarah Curry, the account manager for the Foods Lab, and Courtney Altman, our labeling specialist. A bit about Midwest Labs. It opened in 1975 and serves multiple industries, including agriculture, pet food, animal feed, environmental, fuel, and finally food. Please visit our website at midwestlabs.com for more information. Today we're going to talk about nutritional labels, why and how they are changing, the timeline, some specifics, and how to comply. Let's get started. So why are labels changing? More and more scientific research is linking diet and chronic diseases such as obesity and heart disease. So also, certain research has shown that portion size has continued to increase, both in restaurants and in homes. Finally, the implementation of former First Lady Michelle Obama's Health and Wellness Initiative, which includes Let's Move, school lunch, and nutritional labeling. The new labels are supposed to make it easier for consumers to make more informed food choices. The last time labels were updated was in the 90s. So when the FDA issued guidance in March of 14 for comments, they received 350,000 comments by August 1st. They had to respond to each and every one of these comments. So the final rule did not get issued until May 27th, 2016, and became effective July 26th. They gave large companies 2 years to comply and smaller companies 3 years to comply. Well, recently, on September 29th, 2017, the FDA proposed to extend the deadline to January 1st, 2020 for large companies, that being companies with sales of $10 million or more, and January 1st, 2021 for smaller manufacturers with less than $10 million in annual food sales. So let's talk a little bit about what's changing. The overall look, including the font and the formatting. I'm going to throw up real quick a different view. I'm going to show you kind of an example of previous versus current. So right here on the right side, you have the previous, or I guess technically it's current right now, with label. It's a little smaller. The newer label is a little bit bigger and a few different attributes. So we're going to talk more about those. Sorry, still learning. All right, so looking at the new labels, a few things that are changing from a format perspective. A lot of font changes. It's ranging between about 6 point to 10 point. But if you can see the calories, this one has to be a 22 point and either bold or extra bold. So you can see what they're really focusing on. The nutrition facts, just that label has to be much bigger as well, at least 16 points. All right. What parameters have changed within the label? So looking here, Instead of listing sugar in general, the total sugar is now required as well as the amount of added sugar. Vitamin D and potassium are now mandatory nutrients, while vitamins A and C are voluntary. They do require absolute values for the vitamins and minerals as well as the daily value percentage. They moved the daily values to the right since they did include the absolute values. There's an abbreviated footnote, and they've removed the calories from fat. Dietary fiber has also changed in that only fiber that has been proven to be bioavailable to your body can be recorded on the label. In order to list a synthetic fiber as beneficial, the FDA is looking for human clinical data proving the physiological benefits. So currently, inulin is not considered a beneficial fiber, so the value cannot be included on the nutritional. Finally, there are some daily values that are likely to change with the label update. Next, I want to discuss the different ways to get a label so you can determine which is the best fit for your product. Analytical labels test proximants, sugars, fatty acid profile, cholesterol, appropriate vitamins and minerals, and fiber. For some that don't know as much about this, let's talk a little bit about the proximants. The proximants include protein, fat, moisture, ash, and carbohydrates. We only analyze for the protein, fat, moisture, and ash. The carbohydrates are actually calculated out based on the result of the protein, fat, moisture, and ash. The other option is a database label. Here, we do not do any analytical testing. Instead, we use the recipe that you have, the weight, and the known nutritional information of your ingredients. Analytical testing is the most accurate as it tests a specific product, but the price is in the range of about $800 per sample. Whereas the database label will require more information from the client, but will only cost around $100. Now that we know how to get a label, let's discuss specific information that is included, starting with the first component found on the label, calories. This is the largest font on the label at 22 point and which shows the importance that the FDA is putting on the calorie count. So how are the calories calculated? This comes back to approximates. Carbohydrates and proteins both contribute 4 calories per gram, while fat contributes 9 calories per gram. If there is alcohol included in the product, it contributes 7 calories per gram. For example, if a label shows 2 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of protein, and 2 grams of fat, the calories would be calculated by multiplying the 2 grams of carbs times 4, plus the 2 grams of protein times 4, plus the 2 grams of fat times 9, for a total of 34 calories, which is then rounded on the label to 35 calories. Listed next on the label is fat. It's mandatory to declare the total fat as well as the saturated and trans fat. The poly and mono unsaturated fats are voluntary. The daily value will likely change from 65 grams to 78 grams. After fat is cholesterol, which is unchanged. I will momentarily skip the sodium and move to the carbohydrates. Sugar and fiber are carbohydrates, so they are indented below the total carbohydrate value on the label. All are mandatory to declare, and there's a proposed change to the daily value from 300 to 275 grams. When determining the total sugar, this includes both natural and synthetic sugar, whereas the added sugar is considered anything that is added to the product as a sweetener, even if that sweetener is considered natural. For example, honey is naturally sweet, but if you are using the honey to sweeten your product, it is considered an added sugar. Other added sugars include molasses, syrups, sucrose, lactose, malt sugar, and malt sugar. There is no lab test to differentiate a natural sugar from an added sugar. We can only test for the total sugars. So you must keep accurate records detailing what sugars are being added versus what's naturally in the product. All right. We talked a bit about fiber previously, but some more information about it here. It is mandatory to declare the amount of fiber in the product, and the daily value is likely going to change from 25 to 28 grams. Current testing for fiber is done by removing the moisture, sugar, and fat, then using the remaining sample, subtracting the amount of protein and ash to determine the fiber value. From there, we can determine the soluble and insoluble fiber as needed. Going forward, there's an updated method that will be able to differentiate the types of fiber by HPLC analysis to determine what can be included as fiber on the label. This is especially necessary for any products that are claiming high fiber that isn't a natural source, for example, like in a fruit. There are human clinical trials that are going to be necessary to determine which fiber types can be included in the label. With all that being said, there is not a final as to where, as there are companies lobbying for their interests in Washington, and we are still waiting for more guidance from the FDA. Either way, it will be necessary to keep detailed records of fiber, specifically in the added fiber for each product. Continuing with the nutrients, next on the label is protein. Again, it is mandatory to declare, but no daily value change is expected. If you notice on labels, there are daily value percents for most of the values, but not usually for protein. And I'll go back to our label here. You can see that while there's a daily value for total fat, cholesterol, sodium, carbohydrates, and fiber, even for sugars, there's not for protein. So the reason is that the meat to protein, you need a meat to protein ratio or PDCAS values is required to make this determination. There we go. The PDCAS is the protein digestibility corrected amino acid score. This value rates the protein digestibility within the body. To calculate, there's a weighted average of the ingredient's protein source multiplied times the protein value for each ingredient. This is especially important if you are making any claims for high protein. Next on the label are vitamins and minerals. The big change is adding vitamin D and potassium and making vitamins A and C voluntary. It's also necessary to include the absolute values of vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium. If your product is fortified with any additional vitamins or minerals, they must be present on the label. The daily values and rounding rules are changing for these as well. Now that we've reviewed the components of the label, let's revisit how to get a label. The analytical label has all the nutrient components tested, whereas the database label generally does not include any analytical tests. Instead, using the recipe and nutritional information, most of the values can be specified using our software, and the remaining values, such as vitamin D and potassium from many products, can be determined using the database. There's an allowed variance of 20%. So for calories, fat, saturated fat, trans fat, sugar, sodium, and cholesterol, you can be 20% over. They're kind of the bad parameters. For the protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals, the good parameters, you can be 20% under. After knowing how to get the nutritionals, there's just a bit more information that is necessary to complete it. The serving size needs to be set, and there are guidelines for what is called the RAC, or the recommended amount customarily consumed. These guidelines can help determine how much should be included in a serving, and were written because people were putting serving sizes of half a muffin, for example, because it made the nutritionals look better. But in reality, most people eat the entire muffin. So they're getting the fat, calories, carbohydrates that were twice the listed values. These rack guidelines ensure manufacturers and producers don't manipulate the serving size to make a product look healthier than it actually is. Next, let's discuss the label types. There are USDA labels, which will follow the 1990 rules and include vitamins A and C, have a normal format that we're used to seeing, and just contain general sugar and fiber data. They are proposing to update similar to the FDA labels, but have not done so yet. As a general rule, if your product has 4 legs, then it would generally need a USDA label. But if it has 2 legs or does not include meat, then it would generally receive an FDA label. Based on package types, there are some options for the label format. The standard format is used for packages with 40 square inches or more surface area. But if you have horizontal packaging, such as spaghetti noodles, there is a tabular format available. For packages with 12 square inches or less surface area, there's a linear format. Another factor that needs to be thought of is whether a dual label is needed. If the product can be consumed either cooked or uncooked, or if it's a mix, for example, a cake mix, that is sold as a product but meant to be combined with other products, a dual label may be necessary. This would have the nutritional values for both the cake mix itself as well as the values for the prepared cake based on cooking instructions. Finally, if you have a product that has a rack of, say, 30 grams and the whole package is only 60 grams, the FDA says that it's possible for the consumer to eat the entire package. So you are required to give the nutritional information for both the 30 and the 60 grams. This is an example of a package that has a 200%, that is 200% of the rack. The FDA says that if the rack is 300% or less, you must use the dual column format to show the nutritional information for both the serving size and the entire package. In simpler terms, it can be consumed in one sitting. Now you have the label, but you will also need the ingredient statement. This is a list of ingredients in descending order of predominance. The common and usual name must be used, and all ingredients are included, even coloring and spices. There shouldn't be any extra description such as fresh or natural. An example is pumpkin pie. Pumpkin is the primary ingredient and will be listed first with the other ingredients following an appropriate order. Also note that you would not say fresh pumpkin. It would just be listed as pumpkin. For ingredients that are less than 2% of the product, you may use the statement contains less than 2% of. But be aware this is sometimes used. The reason people use this is to keep others from reverse engineering a product. But consumers are really pushing for clean labels, which would list all the ingredients in the correct order. Another statement that's often needed is the allergen statement. This is a contain statement that can include sensitivities as well as such as gluten, as well as nuts or other allergens. As well as nutrient testing for the label, Midwest Labs also offers 15 different allergens and gluten testing. Finally, if you have any claims for your product, such as high protein, high fiber, or gluten-free, there are certain values that must be on the label. For example, if you claim high protein, you must include the percent daily value, and it must be at least 20% or more of the recommended daily value per serving. That is kind of the basics of nutritional labeling. There are a lot more specific information, but it really starts to get very product specific. So you can either contact us or visit our website for more information. I did want to mention that we are hosting a symposium called Voices in Food Production on November 14th at Happy Hollow Club in Omaha, Nebraska, featuring guest speakers from the industry. One of those is another labeling expert that will be coming in as the guest speaker. So please go to our website, midwestlabs.com/voices for more information on that symposium. Does anyone have any questions?
I've gone.
Are you able to unmute people? Sounds like she's trying to get people unmuted.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The symposium that you're talking about, the Voices in Food Production, I do jams and jellies. Is that something that would benefit me to go to? It's always hard to figure out what are better for me. And I mean, I've sat through some that really, I mean, doesn't have anything to do with what I do.
Sure. There's some very specific information about labeling for jams and jellies. And yes, that would be a great, so our main speaker is actually an expert. She's got 25 years of experience in nutritional labeling, and she is the person to listen to and to communicate with if you have questions about labeling for jams and jellies.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you much.
Absolutely.
Stephanie, this is Heidi. We did have a question submitted prior to the training from Beth. She would like to know if there is a different test to meet the changes in dietary fiber and the added sugar listings, or if that's all in one with the test that you talked about.
Sure. So unfortunately, we cannot test for added sugars. Sugar, whether it be added or natural, can come in multiple different forms of sucrose, lactose, maltose, so many different forms. So we cannot determine which of those are natural versus which are added. It really has to do with the ingredients and looking at those. For fiber, we are testing a new or validating a new process that will differentiate different types of fiber by HPLC analysis. So that is, as we learn more about what the FDA require, we will make sure that those are different types of fibers that we can test for.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Is there any follow-up question to that, Beth?
I don't believe so. We do have another question though. Do you know whether GMO or non-GMO must be listed if you're trying to get gluten-free labeling?
So gluten-free is different from GMOs. It kind of depends on your product, what you're looking for. We do test GMOs as well here at Midwest Labs, and we can certify GMO-free if you send us the correct product. So that's something kind of depends on product, so it's kind of difficult to answer without more information.
Got it. And just a reminder to everyone, we will be sending out the contact information for Midwest Labs following this call. So if you have follow-up questions about these, you can go ahead and let them know. But do we have any other questions right now? I do see that Julia has a question here about barcodes. Julia, are you on the line?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Do you mind my asking what your questions about barcodes are?
I was just under the impression that today's lesson here was going to cover labeling and barcodes. We're going to be selling our honey in some local stores, and we need to find out about how to create a barcode or where to do that at.
Got it. So this is more about the labeling and nutrition, but we can help you out with the barcodes. I'll send you some follow-up information. This is something that GROW Nebraska actually does on a regular basis. And then if you need more than we can provide, I can send you information on where to go for that too.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Awesome. And Stephanie, can you talk just a little bit about the process of working with you guys, about how long that takes to get the testing done, all that kind of good stuff?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if we're doing analytical labels, we do require about 500 grams, or excuse me, 250 grams of sample, and the labeling, to get a label takes about 10 business days. So regarding database labels, we do not require any sample, just more information. And you can actually go online. We have submittal forms at midwestlabs.com, and it walks you through kind of the process and the information that we need for database labels. And they take about 5 business days.
Wonderful. So, and where is that on your website?
So if you go to the website, in the top bar, there's a submittal form, excuse me, and from there you can go a database label, and that kind of walks you through the information that we need.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And these changes need to be implemented on packaging by the new year. Is that correct?
Well, currently the date is July 26, 2019 for smaller manufacturers, but that is looking like it's going to be changed to January 1st, 2021. Right now it's just proposed by the FDA, but it will likely go through. So they do have a little bit of time, but we definitely encourage you not to wait, as it can sometimes take a little longer than you may think, or you not quite understand how many products that you have, and it does take some time.
Wonderful. And Sierra says thank you in the chat for answering that.
Problem.
Okay. Do we have any other additional questions? Just going through the ones that were submitted beforehand, Stephanie. Is there any financial assistance that can help out with getting these labelings done, or this testing done?
Sure. So the cost for the database is probably, for smaller manufacturers, the better way to go. It is about $85 per product, and that's probably your best bet, unless you're really worried about getting audited. Yeah, if there are multiple products or a number of different products, we can offer some discounts. So all of that is, feel free to call, and we can communicate about all of that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. We're thrilled to have you. This was a very informative training.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. If anybody has additional questions that you think of after this, I will be sending out, again, like I said, I'll be sending out the contact information for Stephanie and for Midwest Labs. I will also be sending out a recording of this training. So if you took some notes, but they aren't clear to you in a few days, feel free to review the training. We'll have it up on YouTube as well. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me as well at info@grownebraska.org. So thank you all for joining us today. Again, a big shout out to our sponsor, the Nebraska Cooperative Development Center. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.